Welcome to Meet the Candidates here on WCMU. I'm David Nicholas, and we welcome Cathy Albro. She is the Democratic candidate for Michigan's redrawn 104th House District. This now includes portions of Benzie, Antrim, Kalkaska, Grand Traverse, Manistee, and Wexford counties. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you, David. Great to be here.
In the first moment or so, give us a little bit of an idea about you, hometown, background, experience that you bring to the campaign.
Well, my husband and I live in Bel Air, Antrim County in Kearney Township. And we have 10 acres that we are starting a small farm on. We have lived for 40 years in Grand Rapids, but we've owned this property for 10 years, knowing that when we finally settled down for the end of our life, that this was going to be where we were in Bel Air. So that's where we are. We've lived there permanently now since 2021.
In this district, which, as we said, represents portions of these several counties, it's a lot of area to get to, but as you've been traveling around, the perception that you have on the top issues, and what are the voters telling you as to, say, those 1, 2, or 3 top concerns and issues they have?
Well, the main reason I'm running, or one of the main reasons, is because I feel like there's too much division in our state and our local communities. I'm the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party Rural Caucus as well. And so our members from all over the state, rural areas, are telling us that, it's really hard to even talk to their neighbors sometimes now. And so I'm running because I believe that, I don't know if you can see my button, but my motto is unity in our community. And I'm approaching people, I'm talking to everybody and approaching people with that in mind, that until we start talking to each other respectfully to find out what we have in common and that we can work on together, we're not going to solve our problems. So those conversations are actually going very, very well. People are saying too, yes, we want to work together. Not everybody. There are some people that would prefer to not be part of the conversation, but almost everybody is saying, let's work together. We need, up here especially, this is one of the most beautiful areas of the state, I believe, with all the beautiful lakes and national forests and so much tourism, recreation. We need to preserve this for our ancestors, or for our grandchildren. Our ancestors preserved it for us. Tourism is probably the driver of the economy up here, which we do need to diversify that, because that may not always be what sustains us, and it's a seasonal business up here too. So that's hard on local communities when they don't have the revenue coming in all year, and people have to afford housing and all the other basics of life. So those are some of the common issues. Inflation, expensive things are going up, and in rural areas, people have to drive long distances, so gas is a problem. But I'm trying, there's not much a state legislator can do to bring down inflation, but we certainly can help people with some of their expenses. And my background is in child development and elementary education. I was a teacher and then opened a child care center in Grand Rapids, and a toy store that subsidized the child care center, owned that for 30 years. So I'm kind of an entrepreneur too. And I helped other businesses open on-site childcare. So I really believe that I know actually that parents cannot afford the real cost. Most parents can't for a good quality childcare. So I believe that it's a good investment for our society to help everyone provide good childcare for every child. And we're all going to reap the benefits of that as those children grow up and they are healthier and are more participatory in our democracy. So definitely education, childcare, housing, like I mentioned, is a big one up here too, because the cost of building a home or buying an existing home has shot up tremendously because people are coming into the state to buy second homes or sometimes as climate refugees, knowing that this is probably going to be a good place to be living in the next 10 to 20 years. The prices have gone way up, and then short-term rentals have sparked the prices too.
Well, let's start from that economic framework you've presented. And for an area that is as reliant as it is on tourism, to diversify that economy, is there land? And how would you address the housing? How do you balance that development with preserving the environment to accommodate all these things and have then an available and well-trained workforce to make all of this balance possible, sustainable, and open to potential economic growth and opportunities for folks?
Complex. We're working with local entities that have different points of view. Like I live in an area where 2 acres per house is the zoning regulation. And maybe my township would say, okay, let's go to an acre per home so that we can maybe put some small homes on and add some housing to our township. They haven't done that, but that could be an option. And some of these other townships that are looking at other ways to increase that housing, they're also looking at maybe taxing the short-term rentals so that tax goes to buying land and building affordable housing of some sort, or giving subsidies to people who work full-time in the community and need a place to live. I mean, they're worried about teachers even being able to afford the housing. So if teachers can't, then, for sure, childcare staff, grocery store workers, the people that are essential to our medical workers, that's very important. So I would say the short answer is that it's complex and that all of the entities, the state, actually there's a lot of federal money coming through also that is funneled through the state that goes then to the local communities and nonprofit organizations to help with housing. Also, rehabbing old homes is another option. There's some USDA grants now available to weatherize and make homes more energy efficient with new windows and roofing and insulation and other upgrades. So that might be something for especially folks who can't afford to do their own, that they might be able to get a grant to do that.
So one of the things that you pointed to in terms of addressing some of the need for more housing would be a tax on the short-term rentals, but you also spent a lot of time talking about the lack of health care to accommodate the growing population and keep folks in the workforce. Is there an area within the present budget or things that we're spending money on now that the voters are telling you they would see as something that those monies could go more towards child care? What would be that proposal you would present to them as possible voters in this race?
Well, we now have $1.4 billion for childcare in the budget from the ARPA funds for just specifically for childcare. So Governor Whitmer has a plan that over the next 3 years, and it's already in process, to provide grants to open more childcare centers, provide more childcare spaces around the state. But that's not sustainable. It's good for 3 years, and it helps raise the pay for childcare workers, so it's at least a livable wage. But we need to find a stable source of income to subsidize childcare, and that could be a whole bunch of different ways. And one is, let's look at the waste. Right now, the legislature just approved a $1.1 billion budget for special interests. And I noticed that in Traverse City, there's $2 million going to a curling club to renovate their facility. So, maybe that was a thought out investment, but I would like to see, when we're spending that kind of money, to further scrutinize where that money is going and they hired a German company to do the contracting. So who's benefiting from the money and where's it going, and how are we going to hold them accountable to do what they say they're going to do. So I do believe that there's a lot of waste in our spending, and I would like to see more scrutiny on that and transparency so that everybody knows where it's going and what it's for. But I also believe that we need to prioritize how we spend our money, and childcare is an investment for our whole state, for everybody. It's not just for that family. For children that grow up with nurturing environments where they have consistent caregivers, they tend to grow up as adults with a more emotional and mental health. And the research has shown that for every dollar invested in an early childhood program, a great one, and with a parenting component, you save $10 to $12 per year on the other end for the incarceration, for people leading responsible lives because of that good early start. So it's very important to our society for us to make that investment, and there would definitely have to be some trade-offs.
Just a few moments left, and I want to give you the opportunity to leave a final message with the voters as well. But when we look at education as a whole, the availability of and the adequate training for a workforce to what we hope will be an expanding economy, do voters tell you that this area or portions of this area at least that you hope to represent are adequately positioned to do just that? Have the students that can move into training for the jobs, and that we would have then that well-trained workforce?
Well, I think we're getting there. I've looked at Michigan Works, several unions, although that's not in my district, but they have training facilities for paid apprenticeships that for the building trades especially. That would be great. Michigan Works has many different apprenticeships in hospitals, all kinds of fields, now childcare too, where people can learn on the job right out of high school or even while they're still in high school. So, and they're paid. So that's one way to keep people in their communities. I just want to make a point that right now, Michigan's public schools are rated 40th in the country for effectiveness. When I taught in the 80s, we were in the top 10, and it's mostly because of the disinvestment that our state has made over the last 30 years in education. They haven't made a public school education, hasn't been a priority. I believe, and the research is showing that we should be putting at least $2,000 more per student into the budget. This year, I think it was raised $400, $500 per student, and that's a good start. Again, that was federal money that came, once in a lifetime kind of thing where, they were helping with COVID relief. So that's not going to be a consistent thing either to rely on that. But I think our state needs to make a commitment. Maybe down the line, we need to look at even a constitutional amendment toward a progressive tax rate rather than a flat rate to help with some of these programs. Investments. Yeah. I call them investments.
And if we look at all these issues from the education to the child care to the other economic and environmental concerns that you've raised, if you were to bring that down to that final message you'd want to leave with the voters before they go to the polls, just briefly, what would that message be?
Well, I think it's very important for your elected officials to be in contact with you, to be available, to listen to your concerns, and to give you feedback and to legislate in your favor. So I plan, and this is different than I think my opponent has done, he's the incumbent, I plan to be in every one of the 6 counties that I represent at least once a month and give people lots of time to plan so that it's not just the day before that we're letting you know that I'm going to be there. I will also continue to knock doors because I think some people don't go to meetings, but they'll talk to you at their door. I'll have Zoom meetings at least once a month. I'll send out bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, newsletters. So I really think it's important to stay connected with the people of your district, whether they voted for you or not, and to represent them.
for addressing all of these issues to the prospective voters of District 104. We certainly appreciate your time, and we wish you all the best with the rest of the campaign. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much, David. Bye-bye.
We've been talking with Cathy Albro, the Democratic candidate for Michigan's 104th District. I'm David Nicholas from Meet the Candidates, reminding you to go out and cast your ballot on Tuesday, November 8th. All qualifying candidates were invited to participate in this series. Following the redraw of Michigan House, Michigan Senate, and congressional districts, check with local officials to make sure you are properly registered. Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th.